Good morning, gearheads, and welcome to the Speed City F1 pre-race show for the 14th round of the 2025 Formula One season with the Hungarian Grand Prix just 1 hour away. Hope you have yourself a fresh cup of coffee as we try to get you ready for this Hungarian Grand Prix. This is Jon Massengale. I'm the gentleman driver of the team, if you will, but not to worry, I'm joined by the professionals and the man who needs no introduction to American Formula One fans, America's legendary voice of motorsport, Bob Varsha, joining us from Atlanta. Good morning, Bob. How are you?
I'm doing great, John. Thanks. Although the weather outside my window is horrible, it looks like a nice day for racing in Hungary, and I'm ready to go.
All right. Well, Jonathan Green is not going to be with us. He's up there doing the FR Americas racing up in New Jersey. So he's
Oh no!
yeah.
Oh, mayhem!
Yeah, he is causing mayhem up there, and he's not going to be with us. But Chris Medland will be. He'll be joining us later from the Hungaroring, live with his microphone as usual. And so we'll get Chris's updates here in just a bit. But, Bob, I think we got to start with yesterday's, just a quick wrap-up. We had our post-qualifying show yesterday, if you missed it. But the poll by Charles Leclerc, the first poll for Ferrari of the year, which is kind of amazing to say at this late stage, the 14th round here. But pretty amazing poll from him and pretty surprising for me as well. I think everybody was surprised.
I think everybody was. The last Ferrari poll was Mexico last year, and ironically, it was captured by Carlos Sainz, who's no longer with the team. Leclerc's last one was in Azerbaijan. It was a shock. Charles himself said he was targeting third place on the grid. He just didn't think he had the car under him to take pole from the McLaren juggernaut. But, he gave it his all, grabbed that pole, then got out of the car and said, I don't know anything about Formula One, I guess, because it shocked him so much. And there were a lot of other shocking moments, including troubles for Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton. And just a generally entertaining qualifying run.
Well, I loved Charles Leclerc's reaction in the car. He said, we don't have that clip, but he said, what? That was his first words when they told him he was P1. And then he said, Mamma Mia. And I think the appropriate reaction, we were all saying the same thing. But let's hear from Charles Leclerc after qualifying, after he got his helmet off.
I have no idea. As I said in the press conference, today is a day where I don't understand anything at motorsports. I mean, Q1 and Q2 was incredibly difficult. And honestly, we cannot change the car, so the car was what it was. But then getting to Q3, I managed to put a lap together. I was very proud of the lap, but I had no idea that this will give me pole position, and it's just crazy. I'm extremely happy.
Can you dare to dream tomorrow about getting that convert then to a win?
Yes, and we have to, of course. This has to be the target and our goal to try and be and win tomorrow. For sure, we are against McLaren, that I think is a stronger car compared to us. But today we've done the job, and on a track like Budapest, starting on pole is quite an advantage. So we need to target the win tomorrow.
Great stuff. Best luck.
Yeah, I like you said what you were talking about. I don't know anything about Formula One. I thought that was pretty funny, but.
Right.
But Bob, this was the closest top 10 in F1 qualifying history. Only 0.543 seconds separated Leclerc in P1 and Isaac Hadjar in P10. That's, I guess it shouldn't surprise us at this short circuit in this tight season, huh?
Yeah, one of the shortest in Formula One. And, the conditions were difficult for everybody, too. There was on and off rain on certain parts of the circuit, very slippy. The track was recently repaved, and now they're just trying to wear it in so that, the track is at its best. No brand new track is a whole lot of fun for the drivers. It needs to get some wear. And this is a track, incidentally, where there isn't a lot of other racing throughout the year, which makes all that they've done to make this a showplace is a real investment by the Hungarians, because it's going to be interesting to see if they can get their money back.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because it was a pretty phenomenal upgrade they did. They started this renovation last year on the Wednesday after the Grand Prix, and worked the entire year with a massive construction project. And we'll get Chris to talk a little bit more about it because he's there. But you've been there, but before this renovation, Bob.
That's right. I talked about it a little bit yesterday. I mean, I can't begin to express the difference between then, and I'm talking about 1989, and now. I mean, you access the track by a dirt road. It was so important to Bernie Ecclestone, who ran Formula One then, and the series, that they do a race behind the Iron Curtain, showing that, politics wasn't enough to stop Formula One. So they got this piece of, just okay road out in the woods behind a service station, and held a race out there with a little bit of improvement here and there. In '89, when I went, Ferrari was celebrating their 500th Grand Prix race, and they had a bunch of really amazing cars out there for everyone to look at. But it was basically, a 2.7 mile track or whatever it is, a bad piece of road to get in, a parking lot, no facilities for spectators or anything. And now it's a showplace. I mean, they've got amusement parks, and I'm sure from the overhead cameras, you'll see Ferris wheels and aqua parks and all that kind of stuff. Massive new grandstands almost all the way around the track, which is pretty spectacular. And it's just so much better in so many ways. I particularly like what they did with the support paddock, which was basically, put the Formula 2 and Formula 3 cars out there in the trees. But now they've got this elevated area where the teams can work on their cars in relative comfort and contemporary style. I'm really anxious to go back to the Hungaroring so I can see it, from downtown Budapest, which is a wonderful city, all the way out to the racetrack. It's really something what they've done. Congratulations to all.
That'd be cool to go there after all those years and see the difference. That'd be awesome. But let's talk a little bit more. We got a couple more clips I want to play because we always talk about the winners and losers of qualifying, and obviously Leclerc, and you put in the notes the Aston Martins, of course. That's again a little bit of a surprise there as well, because Alonso was 5th and Lance Stroll 6th. That was pretty amazing, actually, considering where they have been recently.
Yeah, and they were even higher than that at one point. Alonso and Stroll, put in the session leading time at a couple of points. And for a while, Alonso was 3rd, and then finally they got bumped down, as you said, to 5th and 6th. So I don't know what they did to that car, but they obviously did to both of them, because, Stroll is right there with Alonso, who gave himself a 44th birthday present by jumping right up there. That would be really cool to see him accomplish something at his advanced age. And, you just gotta pull for the guy. I mean, just out there doing what he loves to do, no matter how old he is, all of that experience. I mean, his last pole position was 2012.
Yeah. And
you go back to the beginning of his career, and we've talked about it before, when several guys on this grid weren't even born yet when he was driving at Formula
Several.
1. So
that's right.
Yeah. Got a bunch of teenagers out there who have no idea who Fernando Alonso was.
Well, some of and you're going to go down the whole grid for us, so we'll get everybody touched on here in a bit. But the losers of qualifying, you have to say, number one would be Lewis Hamilton. And we've got the clip of Lewis Hamilton after qualifying, because, in fact, Casey, our producer, was telling me that the AP News did a push alert on the Lewis Hamilton post-qualifying interview. I don't mean to laugh because he's not, it was miserable.
Can I cut you off at that point, John? Sorry to be rude.
Yes, sir, Mr. Medland.
And also for just not introducing myself, but hello, everybody. I finally joined. But I'm going to see if I can quickly, on the walk down the paddock, grab Mr. Jonathan Wheatley, the Sauber team principal, who has Gabriel Bortoleto in 7th place today, ahead of Max Verstappen. Could have said that a year ago. Could have said that a few weeks ago. But what can you achieve today with Gabriel, and I guess with Nico coming from the back?
Yeah, I think we've just got to deliver a flawless race, to be honest. The pack we're fighting in is so close. The times are so close. One little mistake, one error in judgment, one lap too early or too late on a pit stop call. And so we have to be very mindful of that. and build on, honestly, the momentum we've been gaining over the last few weeks. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, racing against your former team, and that looks like a team that you can actually race this weekend. That Red Bull doesn't look all that competitive, and your car's been so strong for a number of different venues now.
I think writing Max off at any point in any season, in any race, would be a foolish thing to do. I'm not underestimating the challenge today.
But strong points on offer again. What are your targets, I guess, going into each race in terms of the bigger picture as well? Because are you not now in a fight that maybe even with Williams in your sights?
I think we're taking it a race at a time. We're in the summer shutdown now. I think all of us need a little bit of a break. I know I do. I need to spend a bit of time with my family. And then let's have a look and see what we're looking like as we go into the second half of the season. Still a lot of races to go. And it's exciting. As we go into every race, we're in a better position than we were at the beginning of the year.
Well, it's been really interesting to watch, but I'll give you a break from having a chat to me now. So good luck today, Jonathan.
Nice to see you, and enjoy the break yourself.
Very much. Thank you.
Give him a break.
That's Chris Medland, by the way, everybody.
Yes. Yeah, Chris, thanks for jumping in. You fired up your mic and you stumbled right upon Jonathan, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the way that the new kind of setup is here in the new paddock that they've redeveloped. The media centre is in a bunker underneath, as we're a level below the paddock. So you have to come up a flight of stairs or up through an elevator, and you just pop out at paddock level. And he had obviously come out of race control at the same time. So as I finally could get my connection, having been underground, there he was. He was actually on one of two phones. He was looking at them both at the same time. And I thought, right, I'm going to see if I can interrupt him. But I was trying to pick my moment because I didn't want to cut you off there as you were talking about Lewis if I wasn't going to get him. But I think you're right. That is a big topic going today, isn't it? Lewis and his mood, because he was so downbeat yesterday.
Yeah, not only so downbeat, but let's play the clip because there's no other way to describe this. Let's hear from Lewis Hamilton right after qualifying.
I'm just useless.
So say again?
I'm just useless.
But that isn't obviously the case.
It clearly
you're not.
is.
What?
Yeah, it's what it is. Just drove terribly. It is what it is.
Do you just not feel comfortable in the car in that part of quali? Did something change?
Nothing changed.
All right, I like Lewis.
I couldn't even hear the last little bit that he said there. I mean, Lewis does that. He just trails off where you can't hear a single thing what he's saying when he's downbeat like that.
I think he said, "I don't know." I think while he was being interviewed, I think he was looking down at his shoes rather than at the microphone. So it was hard to pick up what he was saying. But the most important thing I think he said was one you didn't hear, in which he said, "I think the team needs to get another driver."
Yeah, that was to Sky Sports. So that interview that you just heard was to F1 TV's Lawrence Barretto, who I'm stalking right now, actually. I might ask him about that because it was a very downbeat Lewis Hamilton. He doesn't want me to interrupt. I'm going to interrupt you, Barretto. We're just talking about your interview with Lewis yesterday in the TV pen. And could you even hear a word he said?
No, I felt really bad that I had to ask him to repeat that he said he was useless. So... but then he gave me a better answer afterwards. So you could see how done and dumps that he was. I don't think I've ever seen him that down. And it's not normal that he normally beats himself up personally. To say the kind of stuff like, "I'm not any good anymore," is something that I've not heard him ever say, frankly. So yeah, it shows how tough he took it.
Yeah, we were just saying the same. And with Sky, he then said, maybe we need to get another driver. I'm going to just put this to Lawrence before I walk away from him because he's obviously got his own work to do. But how crucial do you think it is that today he has a positive race and then maybe is a little bit more upbeat going into the summer break? Because it looks like it's been a tough first half of the year for him, hasn't it?
I think it's big because he's going to spend 3 weeks now, hopefully relax and spend some time with his family. And it's a long period to be without being back on a racetrack, trying to right the wrongs of what's happened this year. But I think we saw at Spa what he can do. And I remember on the driver's parade track, I said, what are the chances of some magic? And he had that sparkle in his eye. Who knows what could happen today? I know the rain's not coming like we expected, but yeah, if he has a good race here, I think it could make the difference.
All right, thank you very much. I'll let you get on with your day job, but thank you for answering those questions. So that's F1 TV's Lawrence Barretto, who you just heard, who wasn't Lewis Hamilton on that interview.
And it's funny. I saw a social media tweet from Autosport that said the last time a British driver won at the Hungarian Grand Prix from 12th position, it was a British driver. I said that wrong, but it was Nigel Mansell in 1989. So who went from P12 to winning a race. So Lewis, there you go. It can be done.
Oh, that was a good year as well, wasn't it? 1989.
Yeah.
It was.
Great year.
Mhm.
Bob was just talking about 1989 because that was the last time he was in Hungary, right, Bob? Wasn't that the year?
That was the first time I was in Hungary.
Okay.
Track opened in 86. I showed up in 89 and a few times thereafter, but no improvements were made to the track in that time, certainly compared to what they've got now. And it's weird, on track, it is both good news and bad news. I mean, this is the kind of track where you can do great things, as Nigel Mansell proved in 89 when everybody said, oh, this track nobody can pass. And Nigel passed all the way to first place. Of course, he had a superior Williams at that time, but he was slashing through everybody. And then finally, he set up the great Ayrton Senna perfectly behind a slower car and slashed by between turns 3 and 4 and took the lead and won the race. I mean, he just was not to be denied. So it's possible. And I think Jonathan Wheatley was quoted recently as saying that, no, that's not right. Or was it Adrian Newey who said Lewis is basically a more fundamentally talented driver than Senna was, which is
wow,
a pretty tall statement. So, I think it's all out there in front of Lewis today. Put yesterday out of your mind. That's qualifying. This is racing. Do what you know how to do as well as or better than anybody on that grid. Take the car you've got, see what the race will bring you. There were a lot of mistakes in practice and qualifying, and those can open the door to an opportunity to make up ground. And let's see if he can do that.
All right, well said, Bob. All right, well, coming up after this, we got Chris Medland, of course, live out in the Hungaroring, but we also have some interviews that Chris did, some clips from those, with including Lando Norris. You're listening to Speed City. Back after this. All right. Checking in on the YouTubers. Looks like all the usual suspects are there. We got.
I just remember that was James Vowles who said that. Who worked with both men, not Adrian.
Well, either way, it's pretty cool statement.
Still high praise for sure.
Yep. Kevin Kelly, TW, Mike Bowles, Andy Brinker. He said, "Is Chris doing any F1 TV this weekend?"
I am not. That's why you can hear me.
Yeah.
I think my next one will be Baku, because I go to Azerbaijan, but not many people do. So that's
there you go. That's one way to get on there.
yeah, be the only guy that wants to go somewhere. But yeah, not this weekend.
All right, let's see. The conversation on YouTube has somehow shifted to Ruth's Chris's and the Western Sizzler, the original. Yeah, they're talking food. Wait.
Steakhouse, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Where's the beef?
Where did you find that, Casey?
Good Lord, Casey.
Oh, that was from, I don't know what decade that's from. 80s, 70s?
Long time ago.
Kevin Kelly straightens us out. He says, okay, just to be clear, Ruth Buscombe, F1 TV strategist, not red meat. All right, is anybody talking about Formula One here? Okay. Andy does. Andy Brinker says, in all seriousness, Ruth has been a great addition. She's amazing for F1 TV. Yeah, I like that. And Dennis DeJong said, Mansell won in the Ferrari back in 1989. So, yeah. All right, let's see what we got coming up.
Maybe it was 92. It was in Williams.
Yes, he won the title here, didn't he? I think it was that early.
The title. We have 6 races to go or something.
Here we go.
Hi guys, this is Pierre Gasly and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
Right now, with zero commitment, try Oracle Cloud Infrastructure for free. Head to oracle.com/formula. That's oracle.com/formula. All right. Hey, Chris Medland, we had a little bit of breaking news overnight with Yuki Tsunoda.
Yes, we did. not the most exciting breaking news, I will admit, but Yuki is going to be starting from the pit lane for today's race because he's done what a number of different drivers did actually in Belgium and taken a new power unit because he had a poor qualifying. And I say poor qualifying with a pinch of salt, actually, because he was not that far. I think he was less than 0.2 of a second adrift of Max Verstappen in qualifying. But Red Bull being uncompetitive here meant that it had him dropping out in Q1. Max did just make it through to Q3, but as we've just spoken to Jonathan Wheatley about, he's behind the Sauber and starting from 8th. So Tsunoda had qualified 16th, but a new power unit means he will start from the pit lane.
All right. Yeah. Bob, what do you think about that? I know we were talking about...
Well, I think since he used his 5th of an allowable 4 of those control components, if you will, he's in jeopardy of grid penalties the rest of the season. So I suspect under Lawrence McKees, maybe Red Bull has changed his strategy, and Yuki Tsunoda is going to become a test driver for 2026. I mean, if you're not going to score points, you may as well get out there and do something useful for the team by trying out bits and pieces for next year.
All right. Hey, Chris, I was looking at you had some really amazing interviews you got to sit down and do, including Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, and some others for us. And we've got a clip of Lando, the interview you did with Lando, and it's about 3.5 minutes, but I didn't want to interrupt you if you thought you could grab somebody before then. So let me know what you think.
Your timing is perfect, John. It's almost like you can see what's going on through my own eyes, because I've stayed in the paddock side of the setup of the pit lane right now, and the pit lane is now open. So the cars are doing their recon laps and heading out to the grid, but running through the pit lane, which means it's closed to mere mortals like myself so that I don't get run over. And I can't go out onto the grid for about another 6 minutes. So let's hear from Lando.
Sitting here now, this was quite a big race weekend for the team, with the moments between you and Oscar fighting for a win. Fast forward 12 months on, it's just you two fighting for a world championship. What have you learned between then and now? Just your, I guess, preparedness for this moment, for this battle.
I mean, from a racing side, I've learned a lot of things. I mean, just generally more experience. Like, it's just what comes with experience is just dealing with more situations, going through more things, understanding your team better, them understanding you better. So naturally, you're just more prepared for any situation. You're more prepared, but the second part is actually, being a better driver on top of that. Can you actually drive the car quicker? Can you do these things? Can you save the tires in a better way? Which are normally the harder things, I would say. But also, especially like for Oscar, in his third year of Formula One, a lot of that just comes with experience too. So I think I'm going to say it in every interview I do, probably from now on, not for probably ever, but I feel now more like the most complete driver I've ever done. I feel like I'm ready to tackle more challenges, all of these things. Doesn't necessarily make it easier though, like you're still racing the best drivers in the world who can drive the car just as quick as you, those kind of things. And yeah, doesn't make things easier, but you're just more prepared. And I think at times, then that just allows you to show more of your potential, let's say.
Well, speaking of the challenges you face, what is the challenge like of going up against your teammate for a title? Because obviously the dynamic against Max last year was just him from Red Bull that was putting up that fight, and when he had a car that was quicker than yours, it meant there was a win that was on the table for him.
Sure.
Every time you've got a car that's capable of winning, the guy next to you has to.
Yeah. There's pros and cons. I mean, it's a good thing that it's just us as a team. Like, that's an amazing thing to have. And just the thought, it's like just us two, is great. Then you have the benefit of you can see everything each other does, but that's also a bad thing. Sometimes, because like he'll have his better weekends, I'll have my better weekends. He can easily see where he's a bit off or where he needs to improve, and I can at the same time, the weekend when he's a bit better and more strong, then I can easily see where he's doing a better job. So you can escape less. You can kind of not ride your good weekends as easily, because I think we're both quite good at making up or learning from each other very, very quickly, which makes things even tougher in a way, because by the end of the weekend you're both just as strong as each other. So yeah, it's tricky, but like nothing else has changed. It's we still get along, we still talk the same amount, we still all the meetings are the same. I guess the difference is we're free to race, but in quite a different way to last year. So I guess there are some different experiences, but I think it's a good thing. Just that it's me against him and him against me, and that's all. Not all we can focus on. It's still just as much as thinking about the others at times. But from a driving point of view, that is how it is. But it doesn't change anything apart from you just go out and do your best every time.
When Andrea Stella said recently that they were getting along great, and I kind of laughed to myself, so I thought, okay, as this season progresses, and we all know that the chance to win a championship in Formula One can be so rare. We don't know what's going to happen next year. As the season moves on, how friendly are they going to be towards each other? But Lando kind of reinforced that, didn't he, Bob?
Yeah, he did. He's obviously a very thoughtful guy. Of course, he's had to answer this same question so many times over. He's probably sharpened his response. But it's a very tough and interesting situation when you have two guys, as you heard Lando say, we're probably equally matched. And I'm going to have my good days. He's going to have his good days. And you just got to take it as it comes. And it's probably a very level-headed approach to this whole thing. Because there's going to be a lot of tension in these final 11 races of this. No, less than that. This is 14, so 11 races of the season.
Well, and Chris, it's fascinating to me because watching him, it's funny. We watch these drivers just grow up right in front of our eyes, right? I mean, thinking back to how he was in the pandemic, and he just seems like a more serious driver. I guess because maybe the situation of being, he's really fighting for a championship. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that does come with age, with experience, with time in the paddock in terms of becoming more comfortable within yourself. I will say I'm very glad to hear that back, that it was Lando's mic that kept working and not mine, because apologies for my questions being bad audio, but I'm glad we heard Lando clearly. The way he was at the time, it was late on Thursday afternoon, and he was still very engaging, very open, like willing to chat. He's not changed in that sense. He is someone that has always been quite open and approachable, and will want to explain things to you and talk to you about things when you ask him about them in terms of a media perspective. And with Lando, I think Carlos Sainz actually said it in an interview with BBC Radio recently I saw was on their website. He said that it's actually used against Lando sometimes, that he's open and honest, and people say, it shows a mental weakness, or it shows that he doesn't quite have it compared to Oscar to get it done all the time. And it's like, I actually do buy into that a bit more. I think we do see a bit of mental toughness that Norris might need, but at the same time, yes, I think it's also fair that for him, that's his way of operating, he hasn't stopped being open and honest with people as he's been here in his paddock. If anything, he's become more and more open and honest with people. And that has coincided with him becoming a multiple race winner and a world championship contender.
Huh. Yeah. Yep. I think that makes sense.
I wonder if there's a certain amount of, resentment maybe, that Oscar in his third season is such a dominant leader in the championship. Well, Lando's in his 8th season, I think. And, who's this kid who just wanders in and wins the world championship? I wonder how much people feel that. But I have a question for Chris. I'm watching the feed, and it looks like most of the drivers before going to the grid are doing multiple laps. You can do that if you come down the pit lane and go back out again. A certain amount of discovering what the track has to offer this morning. Was there overnight rain or something?
Correct. Yes, Bob. We had some pretty heavy rain. We had a bit during the night, I think, but certainly first thing this morning. So the Formula 3 race took place completely on wet tyres. It wasn't so bad that there was spray, but visibility was okay. So we had a full race in, a few incidents, but a couple of drivers gambled on a slick by the end of that race, and it was too soon. But then the Formula 2 race that followed about 45 minutes later took place completely on slick tyres because it was drying out enough. The difference being there, though, you've only had then 2 races on slick tyres since we've had rain compared to a whole weekend's build-up of rubber. So the grip level will be very different. And if qualifying taught us anything yesterday, is how much that change in conditions can really impact the pecking order. So I think the drivers they're they're trying to get as much data as they can, and they're helped a little bit by this track being so short. It's just over 4.3 kilometers. So what are we talking about? It's like 2.8 miles, something like that. Yeah. And based on that, it means that they can get round, go through the pit lane. They could probably do an extra lap in terms of reconnaissance compared to what they would normally do. And on that front, I think, yeah, they've all been taking full advantage of that. Although the fact it's now all gone quiet tells me that they're all done on that front and all on the grid. So I'm going to head out there myself.
Okay, great. Good timing, Chris, because we need to get a quick break in. You're listening to Speed City F1, back after these quick messages. All right, checking in on YouTube. Let's see what's going on. Bill Ricker's got his coffee. Somebody's got their caffeine going. Bob, you got your coffee?
I do indeed.
Let's see what else is happening here.
Thanks to whoever that listener was who straightened me out on Nigel Mansell's Ferrari too.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, I forgot who that was. TW says Oscar is better mentally stronger. That I think. Yeah, that's an argument you could understand why you would make that. Oh, look at you, TW. You're doing your job. He is wiping out, blocking all the messages that are coming in for people trying to share their pirate feeds of the race. Good job. Thank you, sir. And let's see what else is happening here. Andy says, Andy Brinker, not Andy P. Haven't seen Andy P this morning. Andy Brinker says, Oscar definitely has the mentality for a championship fight, for sure. Lando's come a long way since the last season, but still more to go. He just seems more serious now, and maybe that's for the worse for us, right? Who knows? TW says, sad part is Lando's been there through the tough times Oscar arrives, and they're almost to the top. Yeah. Gotta make fellow think when he's getting beaten by his teammate. Not used to Max not even having a chance for the podium. We haven't even talked about Max Verstappen today. I mean, I think you mentioned his name, Bob, and you probably will in your grid a little bit, but
yeah, he's not a happy camper.
No, sir.
There's so much irony in that. Ferrari taking pole just after Fred signs his new deal, and Max having a terrible qualifying year in Hungary just after he announces that, yes, he will be back with Red Bull next year. Love irony. Just love it.
I'm just checking Twitter and everything else. All right, here we go. Coming back.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
In business, they say you can have better, cheaper, or faster, but you only get to pick two. What if you could have all three at the same time? That's exactly what Cohere, Thomson Reuters, and Specialized Bikes have since they upgraded to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. OCI is the blazing fast platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs, where you can run any workload in a high availability, consistently high performance environment and spend less than you would than other clouds. How is it faster? OCI's block storage gives you more operations per second. Cheaper? OCI costs up to 50% less for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Better? In test after test, OCI customers report lower latency and higher bandwidth versus other clouds. This is the cloud built for AI and all your biggest workloads. Right now, with zero commitment, try OCI for free. Head to oracle.com/formula. That's oracle.com/formula. All right, gentlemen, we are 25 minutes approximately from the start of the race. And Chris Medland, I don't know if you've got anybody standing in front of you, but I'm about to toss the keys to the show to Bob for his grid. So just be ready.
Well, I'll admit, yeah, I don't have anyone in front of me right now. I'm trying to line up Mike Crack, Aston Martin. So I really want to talk about how well they've gone. But I will also admit that it's busy out here. We have a new pit and paddock building. We have a huge new grandstand. And this was never a venue that was great for signals. So I very much hope I stick with you guys when I try to interrupt Bob. But for now, Bob is free to have a go.
All right, Mr. Varsha, take it away.
All right, here's a look at the grid for today's race. On row one, on the pole, Charles Leclerc for Ferrari. You can hardly talk about a driver's 27th career pole as being a shock, especially since Ferrari had looked like McLaren's closest rival all through practice. The first for the red car since Mexico last year, and a win for Ferrari engine would be the brand's 250th victory. P2, Oscar Piastri in the McLaren, the only driver to score in all 13 GPs this season thus far, and the championship leader by 16 points over teammate Lando Norris. The gap to pole, 26 thousandths of a second. Row 2, P3, Lando Norris and the other McLaren, just 15 thousandths further back. 7 more starts, and Norris will pass David Coulthard for most career starts by a McLaren driver. The team's next victory will be their 200th. P4, George Russell in the Mercedes, just 12 thousandths of a second behind Norris, meaning the top 2 rows are covered by just 53 thousandths of a second. With Max Verstappen committing to Red Bull for 2026 last week, Ruisel, as he pronounces it, still is waiting on a new contract for next year, but he's now Mercedes' best option. Row 3, P5, Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin. 5 days after his 44th birthday, the ageless Spaniard led an Aston sweep of the third row. Alonso is one of 3 drivers in the field who scored his first career win on this track, along with Esteban Ocon and Oscar Piastri. P6, Lance Stroll, Aston Martin. Whatever Team Green did to make one of their cars faster this weekend, they obviously did it to both. Thus, Stroll has his best grid spot of the season, beating his 8th place start at Imola. Row 4, P7, Gabriel Bortoleto for Sauber, another season best starter, as the Brazilian's 3rd Q3 appearance in the last 3 races improves his 8th place start last week in Belgium. P8, Max Verstappen in the Red Bull, complaining of a lack of balance in the car all weekend. The 4-time champ, who recently confirmed his return to Red Bull next season, has his worst qualifying run of the season without a grid penalty. Row 5, P9, Liam Lawson of Racing Bulls. 3rd start this season from P9 for the Kiwi, who can now wave at his former Red Bull teammate Verstappen across the road.
Good timing, Bob, just as you're explaining row 5 with the 2 Racing Bulls. I've got Alan Permain here, the team principal. And Alan, is it a bit bittersweet? Both cars in Q3, the closest gap to pole position, or the closest top 10 ever, and you were 9th and 10th.
Yeah, it's true. Isaac was particularly upset with his lap in Q3. He felt he could have been 7th, was probably achievable. I don't think we could have got to the Aston Martins. But, 2 different circuits, Spa and here, both in Q3 again. So we have a car that's consistent, which is really good.
Yeah, and both drivers again into the top 10. But from here, how hard is it to overtake at this track? I know at Spa we didn't actually see a huge amount of movement, but here everyone talks about it being difficult. What can you do today to try and move forward?
It's very tricky. It's very, very tricky. We need to have good tire deg, and that's the key to this race. It's a hard race on tyres, although this year it's much cooler than it normally is. Yeah, we'll see what we can do. We'll use the strengths of our car.
Now, when you have both cars starting together like this, do you then go more towards the same strategy because you're both in the points, or to keep them away from each other, do you look at other opportunities?
We look at everything, honestly, but generally, if you split them, one of them's wrong. So we try and get them both right, and that's always our target.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing if it goes right today. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
What timing?
How about that? I was talking about Liam Lawson, and it's amazing when you think about Spa last week and Hungaroring this week, 2 tracks that could not be more different. Anyway, Liam Lawson has started higher on the grid just once this year in Austria, where he was 6th. P10, Isaac Hadjar for Racing Bulls, whose streak of never being eliminated in Q1 this season remains alive. The Frenchman is in a points fight, 5 markers behind Esteban Ocon and just 2 ahead of Pierre Gasly and Lance Stroll. Row 6, P11, Ollie Behrman in the Haas. The rookie can do his team a world of good this weekend, being part of a 4-team logjam covered by just 8 points. And though he's only scored in 3 races, only twice in 13 starts, has he failed to advance from his grid position. P12, Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari, the most successful driver on this track with 9 poles, 8 victories, and 12 podiums. After missing Q3 here for the first time since 2014, he described himself, as you've heard, as useless and suggested Ferrari find another driver. Go get him, Lewis. Row 7, P13, Carlos Sainz and the Williams. I'm pretty sure no one's looking forward to the summer break coming up more than the Spaniard, who's on the short end of an 8-6 qualifying match with his teammate Alex Albon. P14 is Franco Colapinto in the Alpine. The 8th start in relief of Jack Doohan sees the Argentine match his best grid position of the season. Row 8, P15, Kimi Antonelli in the Mercedes. Only the 4th time that rookie has started outside the top 10 this season, but here's the kicker. He has failed to see the checkered flag in 4 of his last 7 starts. P16, Pierre Gasly in the other Alpine. Fighting understeer everywhere, the Frenchman lost out in qualifying to his teammate Colapinto for the first time since Canada back in June. He picked up 1 spot with Yuki Tsunoda's banishment to the pit lane for changing parts under Parc Fermé. Row 9, P17, Esteban Ocon in the Haas. The 2021 edition of this race saw 4 cars eliminated and 2 others delayed by a turn 1 crash, while Ocon slipped through and won thanks to some great defensive help from his Alpine teammate at that time, Fernando Alonso. He'll need that kind of miracle today. P18, Nico Hülkenberg in the Sauber. The German has more roller coasters than Six Flags this season, with no top 10 starts, but 5 points finishes and even a podium. But he's finished in a position worse than he started just 3 times, and one of those was a DQ. Row 10, P19, Alex Albon and the Williams. Despite throwing 3 sets of tires at the car in Q1 alone, Williams' top scorer could not get performance from the machine, staying 5th in the constructors' ranks. Going into the summer break is looking tenuous for the Williams crew right now. And starting from the pit lane, Yuki Tsunoda in the Yuki Tsunoda in the Red Bull, just over a 10th of a second doomed the Japanese to relegation in Q1 for the 6th time this season. Unfortunately, 4 of those have come in the last 6 races. A complete replacement of the controlled elements in the engine bay sends him to the pit lane for start. And that's how they'll line him up.
I thought you had breaking news there for a second about Yuki Tsunoda. But anyway.
Yeah, how about that?
Hey, Chris, I hope you get Mike Crack, because I want to ask him about Alonso's back and how that is a complete non-story, clearly, with Alonso qualifying P5 and turning 44 this week. He's the oldest F1 driver since 1975, when Graham Hill was racing when he was 44 years old. That, I know we touched at the beginning of the show, but man,
not only that, I've had a few people say today, what about Fernando for the win? From 5th on the grid, like the Mercedes been a bit up and down, and what if something happened with the McLarens and Leclerc kind of looking at each other? What if he could get through? Because if there's a track that hitting the front could then lead to a shock result, we've seen it with Esteban Ocon here before. Yeah, who knows? So I just wanted to put that theory out there before it might happen, just before we go to the national anthem.
I'm grinning ear to ear, hoping that would happen. That would take us into the summer break with huge momentum. I would love that.
Yeah, definitely. You know, we were speculating yesterday that the 2 McLaren boys may not be in full fighting shape here because they have such a big lead in the constructors and in the drivers' championship, that maybe they'll be concentrating more on not making mistakes and on going out to win the race. So, you know, just because you're fighting a McLaren doesn't mean you're fighting the best of McLaren at this point in the season today.
Yep. Hey, I want to touch on something else. Jack Crawford had 2 P3s this weekend, I believe, and is now moved up to 2nd in the championship in Formula 2, the American driver.
Come on, Jack.
Come on, Jack. Did you automatically start singing the national anthem to the Hungarian, as you said, Jack Crawford's name?
Trying to remember the Hungarian anthem.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's take this opportunity. Let's go and take a quick break, and we'll let that clear out, and maybe Chris will get some more interviews, and you're listening to Speed City. Back after these messages. All right. Let's see. Mike Bowles is here. He is... What did Mike say? He said, can a Bloody Mary be had with breakfast? Absolutely, Mike. That's approved. And good job, TW, clearing out some of the others. I want to look and see what we got coming up here. We do have that interview with Carlos Sainz. It's a little shorter. It's 2.5 minutes. We could use that one. I didn't get the chance to cut up the Lawson one, Chris, but we'll use it for sure.
That's okay. Yeah, we use it in the summer. I'm eyeing up Ao Komatsu after this anthem, hopefully.
Ah, okay, great. Love to hear from him. What else? Let's see. Oh, we had American Brad Benavides. He's an interesting character, isn't he, Chris? In FIA 3?
Very, yeah.
I just clipped out about 50 seconds, I think it was, of that interview you sat with him because he's such an interesting take. He's one of those. How old is he, Chris? I didn't get a chance to look him up.
I think he's 24. 23 or 24, I think.
Okay, well, that makes more sense because I thought, man, this guy sounds really mature for a 20-year-old or whatever he is. No wonder. All right, let's see. Give us some eyes and ears, Chris. I mean, we're watching on television here, but what do you see?
So I've come back to Esteban Ocon's car because this is where Ao Komatsu was and still is. He's about to wander, I think, further forward. All the cars are just firing up around me. So I'm between Pierre Gasly's car and Esteban Ocon's car. And I'm going to slowly have to follow Ao until we're out the break.
How long we got, Casey? All right, here we go. There's George Russell on a scooter.
Hello to everyone, this is Gunther Steiner, this is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, Chris Medland is chasing Haas F1 team principal Ao Komatsu. Chris, are you getting close?
Yeah, I'm very close. In fact, I've got Ao right here. Ao, we're walking back towards Ollie Behrman's car, P11 for Ollie today, but a tough place to overtake. So how do you get P11 to become points?
Good question. If you got a good idea, please tell me. But no, honestly, the car's got pace. Ollie should have been Q3. Easy. I mean, so we just try to use the pace today.
Does that come down to strategy then? You got to find some clear air. You got to do something different.
Yeah, but you can't go too much off the lane because we're in a decent position. We got the pace in the car, so to start off it, see what we can do off the grid, and then see who's in front of us, behind us, take it from there. But we do something, trying to use our pace.
This sounds like maybe it's one of those scenarios where you've told your driver to be aggressive at the start rather than be cautious.
Honestly, it's a very fine line, to be honest. I think they know what they're doing, so we don't need to be overly aggressive. We cannot be overly cautious either. But we have to do it naturally.
And I guess you just rolled the dice a lot more with Esteban further back today, 17th, I think, on the grid. That's the noise of Williams firing up rudely right now behind us.
Yeah, Esteban again, even more so with Esteban from P17, you cannot just do the normal stuff. So we have to do something different with Esteban.
We'll keep an eye out and see what that is. Good luck today.
Thank you.
Nice, Chris. He was ready to take your advice, Chris.
He sounds a little
I can tell you he should never do that.
He does sound...
At the end there, we had a Williams fire up loudly, like very loudly. And I know this microphone doesn't always pick it up, but it made him jump.
Hey, I want to talk about the wind we saw yesterday, Chris. Is it settled down or is it similar to yesterday?
So I'd say it's settled down in a sense. It's breezy enough. I mean, we're on the pit straight. You're quite sheltered now because of the size of the main grandstand and the new pit building, which is 3 times the height of the old one. But that also then channels it up and down the pit straight. So it's a headwind right now. The drivers will be able to hit the brakes a little bit later in the turn 1, which I think they'll be happier with. But then that also means as they get all the power out of turn 1, the car will start to come unsettled. And that's kind of the beauty of this track, where the first corner and the last corners are essentially just 180s. So at one point, you're happy with what the wind's doing for you. And at another point in the corner, you're not. There's no perfect scenario in that sense. So that's why it does affect the car so heavily. You're looking at not only can you hit the brakes later or earlier, but you also then have to do the opposite on the exit. So say you can hit the brakes earlier or have to hit the brakes earlier into a corner, you can get on the throttle earlier out of it. But you only learn that once you've been through that corner once. And as we saw in qualifying, you only get one shot. So you only find out when it's too late.
Bob, you pointed out that McLaren had been saying they were affected by the wind more than the other teams.
Yeah, there was an interesting interview with Andrea Stella, their team principal, who said, yeah, we were having a very tough time with the wind, and I won't tell you which turns and how it affected us. But he obviously was concerned that the McLaren, in its superiority to the other machines on the grid, has this potential, not a fault, but a weakness. When the wind.
Speaking of McLaren, we've got Zach Brown with us right now, and Zach,
grab him.
About the fact that the wind seemed to catch you out. What do you think he'll do today? It's still a bit breezy, but maybe not as bad as it was.
Yeah, it did catch us out yesterday. You know, we couldn't even get near our Q2 time, but I think we're looking good for today. We got 2 fast race cars, 2 very fast racing drivers. Charles did a great job. The Ferrari's been quick all weekend. George is in the game, so I think it's going to be a race today.
Yeah, we're screaming over Oscar Piastri's engine rudely being fired up next to us, but how do you look at this when you've got a car ahead of you for once, dare I say it, and it's a spanner in the works at a track like this? Are there different rules, different approaches to this race?
No, I think we got to keep doing what we're doing. Obviously, we got to get rid of the red car in front of us. Easier said than done. We do have some optionality when we see, kind of how the race starts to play out. He did a great job. He's not easy to get by, so let's see. Is
it tougher to keep both drivers happy in a scenario like this, though?
No, just business as usual.
We'll come back to it at the end of the race to see if that's the case.
Yeah, exactly. Cheers.
Yeah, your microphone, Chris, does an amazing job. You couldn't hear that the car fire up behind you at all. You guys your voice got a little thin because it's directing it, but you couldn't hear it at all. It's really pretty amazing technology. Must have been a $10,000
there's times
mic.
that I hate that because there's times I hate that. I can tell you it's not. It's about a $200 mic. But the reason I hate it is because obviously we shout over it and you can't hear the background noise, but the atmosphere is actually great a lot of the time. I do like that it cuts out techno music all the time. As cool as some of the tunes are, you wouldn't hear a word I say with some of the music that's played and so loud on the grid these days. But when it's an engine firing up or it's any other sort of kind of good background noise, I feel like we miss out on it by the mic not picking it up. So, a bit of a shame sometimes. But that, again, was one where I could not hear a word Zach Brown was saying to me, and we were stood about 4 inches away from each other because Oscar Piastri's engine was firing up. So that's why, apologies to listeners, if we suddenly start screeching.
Well, it sounds great. And, hey, forget Zach Brown. I don't care what he sounds like, so it's great. Hey, Bob, I dropped something in the show doc about Leclerc, the odds, the Vegas odds or the whoever odds for him to take the pole yesterday. I don't even know how those work because they call it a plus 900. And I thought that was 900 to 1. I was like, well, that doesn't sound right. But I guess you have to convert that. But it was like approximately 9 or 10 to 1 for him to take the pole yesterday. And I guess that makes sense. I did that through some AI, Perplexity AI. They have a really cool F1 platform now. Perplexity does. You can go to their site and get all sorts of information. But I just thought it was fascinating that he was so far 10 to 1 odds roughly.
Yeah, I'm the last guy to try to explain those odds and how they work. But yeah, it would have been nice to have put a few bucks on Charles Leclerc. I'm surprised the odds were that great because Ferrari was so close in practice, and Leclerc is known to be such a fine qualifier that I thought the odds would be lower.
True.
But
That's
as
true.
I say, I don't know squat about gambling.
Yep, I am not a gambler myself either. So, hey, Chris, where are you now? Give us some eyes and ears. It's getting close.
So I'm back in the paddock. We've just been kicked off the grid as all that noise was happening. I must admit, I never saw Mike cracked on the grid at any stage either. So I was looking out for him, but I never spotted him at any point. So maybe that was through choice. He might have just stayed on the pit wall thinking people will want to talk to me and I don't want to talk, which seems strange given that they're starting 5th and 6th. Aston Martin, it's a good news story. But no sign of him. So I will actually do a little one loop of the paddock before heading to find a screen to watch the race, just to see if he's out here for any reason. But all the guests now being kicked off as well. One such guest, by the way, so I heard Sweet Child of Mine blaring out pre-race on the grid. Is Axl Rose, who's going to be waving the checkered flag, I believe, at the end of this race.
Axl Rose.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
Should have had him sing the anthem.
Yeah. Hey, I was looking at that Perplexity page on F1, on their F1 page, and I disagree with their win probability. I thought it was for today's race, but their win probability, this is for the season. They're saying 61 for Oscar, 28 for Lando. Actually, I kind of disagree with that. That's pretty heavily in favor of 61% win probability for the championship. I was looking for the race. I wanted to see I wanted to see where Alonso was in that because of what we were just talking about. But Chris, any thoughts? We got about 4 minutes left in the show about
Well, actually, I've just got thoughts on the race. Actually, is that because of what we've just been talking about a little bit? Certainly, there was Zach Brown about easier said than done getting past Charles Leclerc. I do think this whole race hinges. And that's not that anyone should turn off if it doesn't go spectacularly at turn one, but it hinges on whether Charles Leclerc keeps the lead at turn one. Because I think if he does, then there is every chance that he can really impact the outcome of this race, either by winning it himself or making it very hard for McLaren to get it right with their drivers and keep them out of squabbling with each other. Because it is tough to overtake. And as we talked about the wind, it's a bit unsettling. Andreas Stella said last night what he thinks played a big role in the outcome of qualifying was the fact that both Norris and Piastri obviously were unsettled by the conditions like any other driver, but then left that tiny bit more margin because they're in a championship fight. And they knew they couldn't afford to throw it off the road and have their rival out-qualify them by a number of positions, especially here. Same thing is going to be in the race. Everyone is slightly off the limit compared to qualifying, it's true. But you cannot be making a mistake and dropping a number of positions in this race because you're not going to get them back very easily. So I think there's going to be this kind of weird balance. I can't quite tell how they're going to play it into turn one. But when the two McLarens looking at each other and know it's important they get past Leclerc, I think it could cause some problems. So that first corner, more so than many other first corners, and they're always important. But certainly this one today is going to be absolutely crucial.
Bob, I see the gears turning in that head.
Well, I'm thinking about that. I just saw a shot of Oscar Piastri getting in his car. He is starting on the right-hand side of the road. So the pole sitter, Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, will be on the left. So his main goal is going to be to get a great start and shut the door on Piastri, which is a big ask, I think. On the other hand, taking that outside line in turn one, if you can stay wheel to wheel with your opponent, will give you the inside line down into turn three. Which is a classic move around the Hungaroring. It's going to be a really interesting start. As Chris just pointed out, the McLaren guys are probably going to be that little bit more conservative than they might normally be. But at this point of the season, you might also get somebody who's got a wild hair because they're desperate to make something happen, and then you wind up with a situation like 2021 where we had a big steaming pile of race cars and around the outside at turn one.
Yeah. And
that's how Fernando Alonso wins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And Chris, there's no chance of rain, right? I mean, it still doesn't look sunny. I'm looking on TV, but it looks bright.
I'd go with like 10%. Yeah, it's certainly like higher cloud than we had earlier, and it's not as grey or dark. But that higher wind does say that something could be blown in. It just doesn't quite feel like it did yesterday, where a shower bubbled up out of nowhere. Not sure that will happen today, but again, depending on how the start goes, we might not want rain. We might be set up for a really interesting race if Leclerc keeps the lead anyway.
All right. Well, we just have a few seconds left. Let's do our predictions. I'll go first. Make it quick. I'm going to say that Lando Norris wins this race, followed by George Russell and Charles Leclerc. Bob?
I'm going to say Piastri, Leclerc, Alonso.
And Chris Medland.
I've said it enough times, so why not stick with it? Fernando Alonso, Lando Norris, and Max Verstappen.
I love it. Love it. All right. Well, thanks to Bob Varsha, Chris Medland, and our producer, Casey Johns. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Stay right here for the race and join us for the post-race right afterwards.